It is good to be back in the best Rotary Club in Yakima that meets on a Thursday at noon in the Convention Center. Fantastic. One of the largest, I think you must be the second largest club in the state of Washington today. It's very, very impressive, all you accomplish in this community, and it's such an honor to be back here today. I want to talk to you about two things today. The first thing I want to talk about is the importance of Yakima to our state. And then I want to talk about the issues we're working on in Olympia with regard to gang violence. Because to me, it's such a striking contrast that, I come to Yakima regularly, and whether it's in the city or it's in the lower county, and I see why this part of our state is called the fruit bowl of the nation. It's really fantastic. I love driving down 82 and seeing the abundant agricultural production. Even when I go past the cattle feeding areas, they smell quite abundant at those places. But it's such a beautiful place, and I couldn't help but notice when I walked in today, you had this magnificent tray of fruit, and there's no Rotary Club in the state that puts on a spread like you guys do. It's amazing, and I just thought how perfectly symbolic of this area that you had that gorgeous plate, a platter of pears and apples and strawberries representing all of the abundance of this area. It's such a wonderful part of the state for that reason and for so many other reasons. And you have this challenge, not just you, but you have this challenge with gangs and gang violence that I was alerted to early on as Attorney General when I started coming over and meeting with leaders in the community at the Chamber of Commerce, at the city, and elsewhere, who began to educate me about it, and we began working on the methamphetamine problem, and I really began to grow an awareness of the gang issue. And I want to pause and point out that on the meth issue, which frankly in 2005 seemed almost intractable, we have made remarkable progress. We were about 5th in the nation for meth labs in 2005, and the year before we'd had 1,400 meth lab incidents in this state. We worked together as a state. We worked together in individual communities. We passed stronger laws. We brought together law enforcement and health care and education, everyone working together on community meth action teams. We got on it, and no community was better organized in tackling that problem than Yakima was. And I'm happy to report to you that after all of that work, by the end of last year, we had reduced the number of meth labs in this state by 99% compared to earlier in this decade. So there's no problem that's too hard, it's too difficult for us to tackle if we work together on it. If we work together within the community, if we work together within the state, we can accomplish anything. And that's why I'm working so hard on the gang issue. I first began working on it in 2006 when state legislators from this side of the state, like Senator Honeyford, contacted me to say, look, we've got a problem, it's growing, can you take a look at it? In 2006, I sent out the criminal investigators from my office to interview gang investigators throughout the state. And they came back with some sobering news. They said that by the summer of 2005, we had seen a 300% increase in gang activity over the prior couple of years. Pretty staggering. The problem has not abated since then either. In fact, the federal government has added up the number of identified gang members in the Pacific Northwest, which includes Washington, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and Oregon in their calculation. And they count more than 37,000 active gang members, not wannabes, not associates, active gang members in more than 2,000 gang sets. And I'm here to tell you that most of them are not in Wyoming. They are here. I've seen a map that a federal intelligence agency put up on the wall at a national AG meeting, and that map showed identified gang units, gang sets by state. So there was like one blue dot in North Dakota, right? And then they had California, ... And the state that had the largest number of dots after California was Washington. We have a significant issue here. It is not just an issue in Yakima County. It is an issue everywhere in the state. Consider that Mount Vernon in beautiful Skagit County, the tulip capital of America, had a gang-related murder last year involving a young man who was killed by a couple of other young men. Consider that a week does not go by in Seattle or Tacoma without a gang-related shooting or killing. This is not an Eastern Washington problem. This is a Washington State problem. It is a West Coast problem. It is an American problem with 900,000 identified gang members scattered throughout the United States. And it's not a new problem either. You know, I think back to my history, and when I look at my Irish antecedents who came to the East Coast and were very active in organized crime in New York and in Boston and elsewhere. I have pictures of my great-grandfather dodging the mobsters, trying to get to work every day in Boston before he moved out to the Midwest. This is not a new problem. Every generation produces it. Every wave of immigration produces it. And in this state, here we are sitting on the northwest corner of the contiguous 48 states. We have a veritable United Nations of gang activity going on. We have gangs from Mexico and Central and South America, gangs from Southeast Asia, from Russia, from Canada. You know, I know it sounds funny to talk about Canadian gangsters. How scary could they be, right? But the fact is there are some serious outlaws who come down across the border. The outlaw motorcycle gangs are very active back and forth across the border. The RCMP, the Mounties, are very active in going after those guys. We have gangs that are involved in narcotics trafficking, weapons trafficking, cash laundering, and human trafficking, which is a fast-growing area of activity for them. This is a serious issue. In just the last year, calendar 2010, the number of gang-related shootings in our state spiked 45% over 2009. Just think about that for a minute. Consider that you had 14 gang-related homicides in Yakima, in the city of Yakima last year. Throughout the entire year, Seattle, which is what, 10 times the size of Yakima, roughly, had 19 homicides total. And consider that this problem is a problem that we see in little communities like Royal City and Wapato and elsewhere. Consider that there are 50 identified gang members in Royal City and 3 commissioned law enforcement officers. I remember vividly in 2006, the sheriff of Grant County said to me, "Man, I'm sure glad we don't have the gang problems that Yakima County has." He doesn't say that anymore. They have a serious gang problem in Grant County. So does Spokane, so does Chelan, Douglas counties. There are 500 identified gang members in Walla Walla, and they're not making wine down there, ladies and gentlemen. You know, they are very serious about it. But I have to say again that I came back, as I came back again and again to Yakima, that a lot of my education about the problem, a lot of my consciousness raising was because of leaders in this community. You know, the first high school I visited as AG was A.C. Davis High School. We came here on our Allied Against Meth tour, Operation Allied Against Meth. So, you know, we had these wristbands, you know, the Lance Armstrong-style wristbands that were made up with an anti-meth message on them. So we were we had them all. We were really excited about these. We're going to take them into all the schools. We show up with a box of these wristbands, red. You see, you know, right? You know where this is going. So the principal, this is before Ben Ramirez became principal, the principal said, "Well, you can't bring those in here because they're red." I said, "Really? Well, what about blue?" "No, no blue." No red, no blue, no baby blue, no pink, no white. We finally settled on green. Green seemed to, fortunately, there are no ecological gangs that we've identified so far. We're fortunate that there are, we actually sent a case of green wristbands back to the school after we had been there. That really struck me, that day at A.C. Davis when I really first became aware that there's a serious issue. And I've sat with Principal Ramirez in his office and we've talked about how when you're in the building, you're safe, but how safe are you if you're a young kid and you're trying to get to and from school and you're gangbangers who want to jump you into a gang. It's really tough. This is an issue for our youth. This is an issue which I think in its current manifestation is characterized by the disproportionate impact on young people. Because what we see in gang recruitment today is a particular emphasis on recruiting kids, young kids. And this is happening all across the state. In Seattle, I went to a school in the central area, the inner city, I guess you could call it, although if you've been, like I have, in cities like Chicago or New York, people would laugh if they saw Seattle's inner city. It looks like Hollywood Hills by comparison. But you know, the fact is the central area has a serious gang issue. And I stood with the principal of the Madrona K-8 school, kindergarten through 8th grade, 85% free and reduced lunch. Almost all the kids are students of color. And she pointed at the back fence. And she said, "You see that fence?" She said, "That's where the gangbangers stand to try to recruit my 5th and 6th graders." You know? She's got kids coming to school who are 2nd and 3rd generation gang family members. I went over to the school months later, run by my friend Doreen Cato. It's a school for homeless children called First Place. And as we stood there inside the building, one of the teachers pointed across the street on the corner. He said, "That's where the gangbangers stand and watch our kids come to and from school, figuring out which ones they're going to recruit. They don't have any trouble finding them. They know they're at the homeless shelters. He said, you know which kids they want to recruit? They want to recruit the ones who are good at math. Gives me chills just talking about it. So what are we doing about all of this? We have offered legislation that's been adopted. We are really happy that legislators are dedicated to this issue and have passed bills that we've introduced to increase law enforcement coordination, to provide better collection of data through common definitions. We introduced and had passed sentence enhancements for serious gang-related offenses. We've gotten a number of things done. And this year we have a major bill, HB 1126, that we put together with bipartisan support to take the next step. It has three parts. Number one, prevention. It would provide up to $10 million a biennium for youth prevention activities, for grants from state government to local governments, for boys and girls clubs, for the YMCA, for after-school programs, and so forth. We need that. We need more boys and girls clubs, for example. It astounds me that there's not a single boys and girls club on the east side of the state outside of Spokane and the Tri-Cities. That's wrong. You need those programs. Oh, and Moses Lake has a really good club as well. But you don't have one in Chelan or Douglas or Yakima County. This money could be used as seed money to get those programs going. The money would come from two sources. First, consumer protection actions that my office has taken. The money is recovered. It goes into the general treasury. It's not counted for the budget, so we can use it without making the budget problem worse. And secondly, Representative Hurst, the chair of House Public Safety, and Representative Charles Ross from here in Yakima have proposed a $5 or $6 add-on to traffic citations. We already do that for auto theft prevention. When you pay a traffic ticket, $10 goes to the auto theft prevention account. It's had amazing results because it funds multi-jurisdictional auto theft task forces around the state. As a result of their work, we've cut auto theft in this state by 40% in the last couple of years. You know, it's amazing. If you actually invest in law enforcement, you reduce crime. Isn't that great? More cops, more investigations, more criminals arrested, fewer crime. It's funny how that works. It actually has quite an impact. We need to do that with youth prevention as well. We need these dollars to be available to give kids options to being in gangs. Number two, a set of civil tools that we've copied from states like California, Arizona, Minnesota. Civil tools like gang injunctions or civil protective orders, as they're called in the bill, that could be taken out against gang members when a community, when a neighborhood comes to the city or the county and says, look, we're being terrorized. We've got crimes being committed by the gang. We can't come out of our homes. Do something. Obviously, in addition to arresting people for crimes, what you can do is take out an injunctive order against them, against specific individual active gang members, not based on what they look like or how they're dressed or who they're seen talking to, but based on proof that they are active participants in the criminal activities of the gang. Those civil orders have been proven in those other states to significantly reduce crime. A UCLA study showed that in Los Angeles County, crime dropped 10% when civil protective orders were issued against active gang members. In Texas and San Antonio, they figured out that gang members under civil protective orders were being arrested 55% less often. So this is a good thing for them as well. It gives them something to think about, maybe something that will slow them down before they are tempted to commit that next crime. The ACLU opposes this idea. They say it'll just be used to target kids. Protect youth, they say. Really? What is the ACLU doing to protect youth? Where's the ACLU attorney when the young man is walking home from school and is violently beaten by gang members who want to recruit him into the gang? Where's the ACLU then? Whose rights are they protecting anyway? Certainly not the young men and women who are victimized by older, experienced, cynical gang members. The leaders, they don't want to be the ones caught carrying the guns. They want the kids to carry the guns because the kids will go to county juvenile. If they're caught carrying as an adult and a convicted felon, they'll go back to prison as a felon in possession. They know exactly what they're doing. It's incredibly cynical. It's incredibly destructive. This is about protecting kids. It is not more humane to wait until the kid commits a felony and then arrest him and then prosecute him, as opposed to putting him under a protective order if, in fact, he's an active member of the gang, to think about, getting out of the gang activity and to give him a reason, excuse, and a story for getting out of that gang if they can. That's what this is about. And third, we had a provision in the bill that we've taken out because of its fiscal impacts to provide for longer sentences for serious gangbangers who commit violent crimes. That needs to happen. We know that if you can cut off the leadership of the gang and you can cut off the supply of kids into the gang, that's how you end the gang's effectiveness. That's what we want to accomplish. That's what we're dedicated to doing. That's why we are working so hard on this legislation. Because it has the money in it for prevention, it's called a bill that's necessary to implement the budget. And therefore, it has a longer time frame in the state legislature. But it's not going to be easy. There are a lot of people on the west side who don't hear gunfire at night, whose 16-year-old neighbor was not shot in the back while she lay in bed at 12:45 in the morning, as that young woman in Toppenish was last week. They're complacent. They're apathetic. They don't get it. Therefore, it's incumbent upon the rest of us to make sure that legislators in Olympia hear from all of us in Yakima, from all of us in eastern Washington, from all of us on the west side of the state. Everybody has to speak up and say, there is a public safety emergency in many communities throughout our state. They're asking for help. We owe them the help. We need to pass this legislation. We need to make a difference, and we need to do it now. Not next year, not 2 years from now. It needs to happen this year, this legislative session, before more kids are shot, more kids are killed, more kids are arrested for doing the shooting. It has to happen this year. And I think it's going to happen. We have an incredibly dedicated group of legislators working on it, including all of your legislators from Yakima County, and legislators from elsewhere in the state as well, including Chairman Hurst from the Public Safety Committee. We have state senators who are waiting for that bill to come over from the House. Let's get it done this year. Let's pass it. Let's make progress. Let's make gangs the kind of distant memory that meth labs will be in another couple of years. Thank you very, very much.